Can we prioritize our own students?
Sure. Roop is next, yeah.
Thank you so much for your insights, sir. My question is in terms of the issue you highlighted, the unemployment issue. What is the policy that sort of reverses that trends, and how does the alliance plan to push for that particular policy?
Start with her. You know, the India Alliance was a difficult one to put together, and there are two of our partners who actually went to the NDA. We fought elections against each other in the India Alliance, last 3, 4, 5 years. But we all decided that in the larger interest of having a united opposition, it's important for us to come together. And the issue, what brought us together, was the fact that the entire opposition got twice the number of votes than the BJP. And BJP always benefits from a fragmented opposition. It wasn't easy to cede space. It's to give one seat to another party, your rival within the state, it's very difficult. For example, Aam Aadmi Party, we didn't have an alliance in Punjab, but we had one in Delhi. Very complicated. Mamata Banerjee, she's part of India Alliance, but no seat sharing. So it's very complex, very difficult, because your state units will sometimes oppose it, and it's very, very difficult, trust me, because I've headed the state unit for many years. So it was difficult to come up with an alliance, but I think Mr. Kharge and Mr. Gandhi played a pivotal role in getting the India Alliance together. And I think it's here to stay, because now we have people have actually stamped it and said, this is a good idea, we're supporting you. The alliance has won many, many seats in Uttar Pradesh, for example, Akhilesh Yadav's party and Congress party. So when people have rewarded our decision, I see no reason why we should step back on it. Now we must be there inside of Parliament and outside to check, to oversee what the government is doing. And the other thing about what will happen, gentleman's question about policies of the next government, I think let them first handle Mr. Naidu and Mr. Nitish Kumar. They've been around the block many a time. So I think let them first go through with that. Because there's been a huge discussion about the delimitation process benefiting the northern states and not so much for the southern states, because the growth rates are different, population growth rates. So it's very difficult to say what will happen. There are legal provisions as to when the commission will get formed, but I would hold my thoughts till I see how the contours of the new coalition come about. We already had one or two parties who didn't take oath that day. I think Mr. Eknath Shinde's party didn't take oath with Mr. Modi, and even the other NCP also didn't take oath. So you'll have these, teething problems in the beginning, which are most likely to manifest into bigger issues as time goes by. So I think it'll be interesting to watch. But the opposition, as we have said in our manifesto, we are committed to what we speak of, and that will be our stand through the course of the next 4 or 5 years, or however long the government lasts. One does not know, because the numbers are stacked like this. If you think about it, 22 or maybe 24 seats, if were to shift from the NDA to India, we would have a different government. So it's actually much closer than what we think it is. 24 seats, that's it. Yeah. Had to go from NDA to India, and we'd have a different government. So I think that reality check must be there in the hearts and minds of the people who have taken oath on, just recently. So we'll see what happens. In terms of, this last question about the jobs, that really is that's the responsibility of the government of the day. But I think state governments also have a role to play. So wherever we are in government, I have always advocated that everything else can wait. But people that when they get overaged for applying to government jobs, you have these paper leaks, this NEET issue just happened in India. It's a huge problem. So when young people's future is under question, I think no leader, no party, no government has a right to play with the future of young people. We must conduct elections in a transparent fashion. We must provide jobs. There are 3 million backlog in government jobs, government of Central India. They should provide those jobs. And besides government jobs, unless you have a real job-oriented policy making in state governments to absorb young people from the farmland to the shop floor and to skilled labor, to higher education, the SMEs are the answer. Small and medium scale industry are the answer for getting rid of unemployment. All across the world, it's not the large corporations, it's a small SME sector that really employs tens of millions of people. And that's what we should focus on.
Nadia, I'm going to take another set of hands
Please.
in the room, and then we can go to the online.
And then we can try one.
Hi. So here at the MPP, we talk a lot about sort of unlikely coalitions, and the India Alliance is a pretty massive, fantastic, brilliant, but also unlikely coalition. And one of the...
So do you think Mr. Naidu, who was in Delhi 8 months ago, protesting against the government of the day, and Mr. Nitish Kumar, who said, I rather die than go with BJP, that's almost as unlikely as the India Alliance.
Mr. Nitishkumar, I don't know what's happening there. I'm very interested in the coalition that comes into power right now. But just in terms of sort of larger questions of where we're hoping to take India, India the country and India the alliance. What are your thoughts about what kinds of ideologies need to be maintained for the alliance to be maintained? And hopefully, God willing, we manage to form government at some point. What then will be important for these coalitions to stay together? Because it is a set of very diverse actors with very diverse interests, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think, like I said, we may have some, this is a quick answer to her.
Okay.
We may have a small differences, but largely the reason why we are together remains the same. So the matrix is the same. We have an alliance which is against the NDA, and we've all come together, and people have rewarded our coming together. So I think we are here to stay. And like you said, I always say this, so today's opposition is tomorrow's government. Right? So
I agree with you, but the reason right now that the alliance is together is against the NDA, which is fantastic. Yeah. But once it forms government, what keeps it together, and how do we stay together as an alliance?
बनने दो, सब हो जाएगा, चिंता मत करो. Just wait for that.
Okay, so we have first here, Gargi, go next, yeah?
Yeah. First of all, congratulations for putting that alliance. Like, it was an exemplary thing to happen. Like, everybody in India was concerned about how is the opposition going to react and how is opposition was so fragmented, we were losing hopes, and democracy was like, so the way you have actually put up all the parties together, I just want to know your reflections on what special effort did you take for putting them together, and what was the tipping point really, which really made all the opposition to come together and forget their own differences and be there?
Hold your answer, we're gonna have a couple questions, yeah.
I would like to move away from the coalition for a bit and move towards something which is more sustainable. So as a democracy, we can only sustain ourselves if our institutions are strong enough. You're speaking about unemployment, you're speaking about all the other issues, even at the state level. But in the last 10 years, there's a lot of damage been done. There's no enough data. How do you, sitting in the opposition, now plan to strengthen our institutions and make sure that the entire decade of lost data is coming back to us? And with respect to coalitions, just a bit over there, we should also learn lessons from the past, right? We've seen Morarji Desai's government. They were all there, all thinking about they're going to stay, but lessons from the past shouldn't be forgotten. So how do you plan to learn from the past and then move to the future?
Great, and we'll take one more, but please keep it really brief. Yes, here.
So I have an interesting question. So I don't know whether everyone knows this or not. So in 2001, sir opening a grill compound in the school with my sister and sir's brother-in-law. Could you tell us about your experience running a
Broad set of questions.
So just to add to that, I've had many hats before that. So I've worked in the BBC, I worked in a car company, General Motors, I did the food business for a bit, and then at a very appropriate age of 26, I became a member of parliament. I gave everything up. For 20 years, been focused on that. But each of my stints, whether it's in journalism or in corporate sector, I've learned something. And I think my background, my father used to always insist that, because he didn't really have a splendid education, he was in the Air Force, but he always felt that, fame, fortune, positions will come and go, but a good education will be by your side, till you're alive. So he really focused on getting a good education, and I'm glad I had the good fortune to go and get those degrees. So that really helped me. That she asked a question about the scams. Miss, you asked about those things. Now in hindsight, right? So when we were in government, a lot of allegations were made. Just one, the Spectrum scam. Remember that scam? The numbers were like how many millions, tons of billions of dollars. BJP's had 10 years in government, right? What has been the conviction of that? There was a lot of propaganda, a lot of blame game, a lot of allegations. But if there was anybody at fault, and I'm open to all inquiries, right? For 10 years, you have space to conduct inquiries and punish people who were guilty. Nothing's come out of that. That CAG report, the Spectrum scam, and I'm sure if anyone does anything wrong, he or she should pay the price for it. But what happens is we get lost in rhetoric. So in 10 years, all the cases against, let's say, they've hauled Mr. Rahul Gandhi to the ED office. They've called Mrs. Sonia Gandhi for questioning. Now you do that because it makes headlines for 24 hours or 2 days. It remains in people's consciousness, but it doesn't lead to anything. So what happens, very easy to throw mud and run away and then you've had full 10 years to prove that who's guilty, who's not. All those people who ran away from India, I won't take names, but who are living in this country and other countries, why haven't they been able to bring them back? All the black money that was abroad was supposed to come back to India. That hasn't come back. So I think we must, election speeches, rhetoric, and announcements versus what really has been on the ground. So it's very easy to say that, Dr. Manmohan Singh actually, to my mind, the most honest human being on the planet. And he actually took a strong stand. If anyone made an allegation, he said, no, until you clear your name, you must step down. Does the current government have the same morality? People in that government have done things that are unspeakable. And yet, no one resigns, no one takes responsibility, no one talks about it, no one gives the clarity, no agency has the guts to question those people. So you have to be even-handed in terms of how you view things and what you say and what you do. There was a minister in the UPA government whose son was, allegedly he mowed down people by his car, right? What happened to that case? There were women athletes who were sitting in Delhi protesting against molestation charges against a member of parliament of the BJP. What happened to that? His son got a ticket. So you can't have two standards, right? You have to be even-handed. And people of India, this whole temple talk happened so much. Ayodhya, BJP lost that election in that temple town. It's not about one religion or one temple or one constituency. I'm saying that the Indian voter is wise. They know what is right, what is wrong, much more than you and I. We all think we are smarter and we know what's going on. The political knowledge, the instinct, and the calculation of the Indian voter as a whole is, I think, by far higher than anyone I've ever seen. It's just phenomenal.
My question actually was that there is a trend that government is using other government institutions to either suppress the opposition or to hide their own scams. My question is that how do you ensure that this doesn't happen in the future?
There are processes for it. For example, the CAG report. There are committees in parliament. There are many ways that you have the right to information. So you have a lot of ways you can get truth out. But the government, I think, is hesitant mostly to give data, to share information. The institutions, I keep saying, are one of the most important parts of our democracy, right? The stronger the institution. Look at our neighborhood. I mean, all of our neighborhood, China, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Elections wahan par bhi hote hain, right? But the institutions aren't as strong as they are in India. That's why they're not as resilient. There are a lot of problems in their functioning of their democracy.
Maybe
as
this
opposed to
connects to
India.
the other question. Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt.
yeah.
In terms of the,
So
that there has been a dilution.
So this election
of-
was actually fought on maintaining the credibility, the functionality, the transparency, and the appointment procedures of people who run those institutions, which are constitutional institutions. They're so important, and they have to be above board, and they need to maintain a certain independence. And we took this topic to the people, and I think people have spoken. They said, yes, this is true. You can't have a future time where these institutions are, made just rubber stamps or are ignored. So that's important, and I feel that it's one of the issues that the Congress Party, India Alliance, have taken up very, very strongly, and people have, accepted what we said.
I know we have a large online audience, so I would like to at least take one question from the online audience, and it's a topic that has not been covered explicitly so far. It is about institutions in some sense, but it's specifically about the media, so I'll read it out the question. Saying mainstream media, often referred to as the fourth estate, is perceived to lack neutrality during elections. If the media had provided more balanced coverage, the election results might have been different. What is your opinion on how the status quo of the fourth estate might evolve in the future, especially considering the pressures it faces, and what are the implications for democracy, which is already under stress?
So that's true. The Indian media has been biased, to say the least, and we all know that. But the flip side is now the Indian people are very smart. So this election was actually fought on Instagram and YouTube, a lot more than satellite television, because people understand that the news that comes in the evening is pretty much biased. But the media itself, I think, has been not as fair to the opposition as it ought to be. But I see green shoots. I see a change already happening because they're also pretty smart. They know which way the people have voted. So yes. I see green shoots in that. And I hope better sense will prevail, because the media is not just there to get TRPs and make money. They have a phenomenal responsibility of showing the truth, at least most of it anyway, and give a level playing field to all stakeholders in the election process. What really happened was that it was too skewed towards one side, and I think for media, what they've done is, for the Congress party, they put a whole lot of resources to damage the image of Mr. Rahul Gandhi. They put social media, and tons of people and money went in to kind of distort his image. And but I think when he started walking in the country, when he walked and met people directly, when we had social media and internet and other platforms to speak out, to converse, to engage, to connect, that really balanced things out. So people now, I think, have understood that what's coming on TV is coming on TV. It's just speaking at me. It's not really giving me an informed opinion or something that's tangible and I can take back home to my family and kids.
Can I suggest we do a quick last round? I
Yes,
know we're
indeed.
very close to time, and but really going to ask you to be extraordinarily brief. One question and very brief.
sharp.
Yes. Can we start here?
So my question is about again the alliance and social issues. So within a political party, it's a lot of people and everybody has their own opinions, and not everybody has to agree on every opinion of every other person. And I find it very hard to believe that everybody agrees on it with everyone. So within the party line and in an alliance, this becomes more complicated. How do you support other members of your alliance when you don't agree with them yourself?
Okay. So how do you do that? Right. Okay. Right here.
Throughout your conversation, that you mentioned how the ideology that the Indian electorate can be taken for granted has completely failed, and political pundits are saying that the Hindutva ideology has completely failed. But if you look at the popular vote, the BJP only got 0.8% of the popular vote. So doesn't this mean that the results we are seeing is just a byproduct of the first past the post system that we are using, and not necessarily a policy or an ideology one?
So that cuts both ways. In last 2019 election, the BJP polled 33% votes, and they got a huge majority, right? So that time they benefited from the first past the post. This time they were at loss. So it's even Stevens. So what happens is popular vote has reduced, but the number of MPs, members of parliament, they lost 70 odd, and we gained 60 odd. So that tells you something. So first past the post works both ways, advantage and disadvantage.
We'll take this question here. Very brief question.
Related to that question, last time even when there was an alliance, it was seen that many regional parties just turned upon the Congress and fought elections against the Congress with Vidhan Sabha elections. So what would be put in place this time that the India Alliance, for all these Vidhan Sabha elections for the 5 years, or even less, as you said, does not turn against each other and they still remain one cohesive alliance? Because Vidhan Sabha elections are a big thing then. And every party would want a good share of their power, a good share.
So a second question on the kind of
the
keeping the alliance together. Yes, right here.
Hi. While I'm all for a coalition and it kind of lets India take a step back from the kind of autocracy that we've been kind of told that we are for the past 10 years, but I have also seen that we see all of our MPs and MLAs spending a lot of time out of office trying to decide what coalition to join. Like, as you said, we're not sure what government is going to remain. So how do you think we can strike a balance between a coalition and say, having a stable government?
There's another question about the coalition, but how to strike the balance. There was a question over here.
Yeah. Firstly, congratulations on the elections. I've never been relieved after seeing an electoral thing. So my question is, MP and Chhattisgarh also have similar realities when it comes to poverty. Why is it that the Congress was not, or the India Alliance wasn't able to do well? Secondly, we're a deeply polarized society right now. What do you plan to sort of bridge the gap? Because it's the poor and marginalized that honestly voted for the India Alliance, not the rich or the elite. So
Question
Great.
first.
Yes.
I think when you say it's being polarized, I don't agree with completely. There are attempts to do that, but I believe 1.4 billion people in my country, in our country, are averse to polarization. Right? There's a cap, there's a limit to what percentage can be polarized. Indian voter, Indian citizen, inherently, through our historical 5,000 years history, has been accepting. That's what our religions, all of them, they say that we must accept and embrace everybody. Not intolerance is different. I'll tolerate you. That's not nice. I have to accept you. Tolerating is like a sympathy, or I'm giving you some giveaway. Accepting your viewpoint. That's the ethos of our heritage for thousands of years. I think we live by that. It's not possible to polarize, no matter how much anyone tries to do. And I think what we need now is a healing touch where people are able to come together, put aside differences, and work towards the betterment of our country. Elections will happen every 5 years, we'll have elections. But people, society, young people's future is far more important. And the coalition, you asked questions about how are we going to navigate that. I'll be honest with you, it's never easy. But I think when we've come this far, we will go that much further. We will come together and figure out a way to tackle all those state level issues. And they happen, because if you're a regional party in UP, you want all the seats for yourself. National party is difficult to give it. So it's always a back and forth give and take, which has been the nature of the beast. All alliances are like that. But when the larger objective is in front of us, these smaller ones have to be taken care of. And if something is not, if I have a difference of opinion with you, if it's not a deal breaker, it's okay. It's okay to disagree. That's what to learn. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to differ from each other. It's okay to understand your point of view, not completely agree with it, but yet for the larger good of the country, work together. And that's the nature of politics that we must now practice in India, and that's what's required. Again, last point about this coalition, people are very concerned about, I think you should be more concerned about the ruling party coalition. We are in opposition, so we are going to, in the opposition, wait for our time, which may happen any time, we don't know, because both the alliance partners, Mr. Kumar and Mr. Naidu, have sort of a very love-hate relationship with the BJP. And frankly, no one knows what's going to happen. I don't want to sound tentative and say that we should have a weak government, but the BJP, I think in the recent past, has not been used to sharing power and to accommodate the viewpoints of important regional players. Time will tell what will happen, but recent history will tell you that it's not going to be easy. And that's bad news for the BJP and perhaps good news for the India Alliance.
We just had this question also about a comparison of MP and Chhattisgarh.
Yes, so there are some states where organizationally the Congress party needs to work hard. Because you can rightly ask, well, if you had good results in Haryana and Rajasthan, what about Madhya Pradesh? So Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, all these states we've not done well. But just to add, the vote share is still more than 40%. So it's the ruling government has used certain tactics to get to 10 out of 11 in Chhattisgarh, for example. Madhya Pradesh is a concern because we have a really robust organization, but perhaps not enough to get us past the winning margins in Madhya Pradesh. But I see it from a different point of view. Wherever we've not done well, I see potential. I believe that we have a lot of scope to improve. And we can do that because we have an organization, we have a history behind us. It's not a new arena or something that's really unknown to us. We will be able to build it, and we'll use this next few months and years to build the organization and get much better results in those states.
I think on that note, that optimistic note, and we wish that India continues always to have a robust opposition, because the wisdom of the Indian voter recognizes the value of that. And we hope that, whether it's the government in power or whether it's the opposition, that the country continues to be a bastion of democracy and does well economically and otherwise in the future. And personally, we wish you a very, very successful, upcoming 5 years and beyond. Thank you to all of us, all of you who have joined us today, and for all the people online. I know some of you online may have been disappointed that I cannot take more questions, and you have many interesting ones for Mr. Pilot, but I'm sure that he will give his response best in the actions that he takes over the next 5 years. So thank you all, and have a very good afternoon.
Thank you.